I was a billionaire who lost everything in one night. But the truth I uncovered years later was far more dangerous than my failure. At a lonely bus stop, I met a woman and a child who changed my life forever. And then I discovered something that made my entire empire feel like a lie. Who took my past, and why was my success built on it? Stay till the end, because what I found will shock you. I never believed in miracles. Until the day I lost everything. I was not born a billionaire. I was born in silence and struggle. My father died when I was 12. My mother cleaned floors in buildings I could never enter. I promised her I would change our life. Years later. I still had nothing but debt and rejection. One night. I sat at a bus stop. Cold wind cutting through my empty thoughts. That is where I saw her. A woman in torn clothes. Eyes full of pain. But still protecting her dignity. And a little girl standing beside me whispered. You need a home. I need a mother. That moment broke something inside me. I helped the woman without thinking. I gave her my last savings for shelter. I did not even know why. The next months destroyed me. My business failed. Partners betrayed me. I slept in cheap rooms with no future in sight. But she stayed. The woman from the bus stop. She found me again. She said nothing. She just brought food. And silence that healed more than words. She once had nothing. Now she refused to let me fall. She said. Pain is not your end. It is your beginning. I started again. From zero. From shame. From fire. Years passed. I built what the world now calls an empire. But I never forgot that night. The woman became my strength. My conscience. My family when I had none. Today they call me a billionaire. But I still sit at the same bus stop sometimes. Because that is where I learned. Success is not money. It is the people who refuse to leave you when you are nothing. And tonight. She called me saying something strange happened again at that same bus stop. A child holding someone's hand. And my heart froze as I remembered the past I never fully understood. I dropped everything the moment I heard her voice on the phone. Something in her tone was shaking. I did not wait for driver. I drove myself through the heavy night road. Rain hitting the windshield like restless memories. The city lights blurred like the past I never healed. When I reached the bus stop. My hands were trembling without reason. The same bench. The same silence. But something was different. A woman stood near the edge of the shelter. Older now. But her eyes. I knew those eyes. And beside her. A little girl held her hand tightly. The child looked at me and stepped forward. You are the man from the story, she said. My heart stopped. The woman looked down like she was hiding a truth too heavy to carry. I took a step closer. My voice broke for the first time in years. I asked who she was. The child whispered something again. Softly. The same words I once heard in my darkest night. You need a home. I need a mother. My breath froze. Because I remembered telling that story to someone I thought I had saved. The woman finally lifted her eyes. And in that moment, I realized the truth I never prepared for. She was not the one I had saved. She was the one I had left behind. And the child stepped forward again. Holding something in her hand that made my world collapse silently. My knees weakened as I looked closer. It was an old photograph. Faded at the edges. A picture of me standing at that same bus stop years ago. And beside me in that picture was the woman I could no longer recognize from the past. My mind shattered between memory and reality. I tried to speak her name. But my voice refused to come out. The woman took one step forward. Her voice calm but breaking inside. You built an empire while I built survival, she said. The rain grew heavier. Like the sky was listening. The little girl looked up at me again. Waiting for something only I could answer. And I understood in silence that my past had returned not for revenge, but for truth I had buried. I stood there unable to move. As the rain soaked every part of me. My empire, my success, my pride. All felt meaningless in front of that single moment. The woman looked at me with eyes that carried years of silence. Not hatred. Not anger. Only exhaustion. I did not disappear, she said softly. I was waiting for you to remember. My throat tightened. Memories started breaking through like glass. Cold nights at the bus stop. A woman sharing her last piece of bread with me. A child laughing in the background while I promised I would return. I had returned. But only after I became someone else. The little girl stepped closer again. Holding the photograph tighter. My mother told me you were not a bad man, she said. Her words hit harder than any betrayal. I looked at the woman again. My voice finally came out broken. Why did you never come back to me? She smiled faintly. A painful smile. I did, she replied. But you were already building a life that no longer had space for me. The world around me went silent. I realized the truth I had avoided for years. Success had not only changed my life. It had erased someone who once believed in me when no one else did. The child suddenly placed the photograph in my hand. And I saw it clearly for the first time. The little girl had my eyes. My breath stopped completely. The woman whispered. She never needed your money. She only needed her father. My knees weakened as the weight of those words crushed everything I believed about my success. The bus stop felt smaller. The night felt endless. And my empire felt like dust in my hands. I reached out slowly. My voice shaking beyond control. But before I could speak, the little girl stepped back and said something that froze the air between us. And in that instant, I realized this story was not ending. It was only beginning again. The little girl stepped back slowly. Her eyes never left mine. I used to think fathers only exist in stories, she said softly. Each word felt like a hammer inside my chest. I looked at the woman. My voice barely holding together. You mean, she is my daughter? The silence that followed was heavier than any storm. The woman nodded once. No drama. No anger. Only truth. Yes, she said. And she has been waiting for you her whole life. My hands started shaking uncontrollably. All the nights I spent chasing success. All the meetings. All the deals. All the empty victories. Collapsed into one unbearable realization. I had built $1 billion life. But lost a lifetime that could never be rebuilt. The girl took one step forward again. But this time her voice softened. I do not need a rich father, she said. I just wanted to know if I was worth coming back for. That broke me completely. I fell to my knees on the wet ground. Rain mixing with tears I could no longer hide. I whispered her name for the first time. Not as a stranger. But as a father who finally remembered. The woman walked closer. And for a moment I thought she would hate me. Instead she placed her hand on my shoulder. Do not break now, she said quietly. She still needs you, if you choose to stay. Those words held more mercy than I deserved. I looked up at my daughter again. Really looked at her. Not as a lost past. But as a second chance I never knew I was given. Slowly. I reached out my hand. She did not move away this time. But just as our fingers were about to touch, a phone rang in my pocket. A call from my board of directors. The empire I built was about to collapse without me. I looked at the screen. Then at her hand. And for the first time in my life, I had to choose what kind of man I truly was. The phone kept ringing in my hand. Like a world that refused to wait for my humanity. My board was calling again. Numbers, pressure, empire, collapse. Everything I once fought for. I looked at the screen. Then at my daughter's hand still waiting in the rain. Her fingers were small. Shaking slightly. But not withdrawing. She was not asking for wealth. She was asking for presence. I slowly turned the phone off. And in that silence, something inside me finally broke free. Not pain. But choice. The woman watched me carefully. As if she had been waiting years for this exact moment. I stood up slowly. My voice steady for the first time. I will not go back tonight, I said. The wind softened. Or maybe my heart did. My daughter looked at me with confusion. Like she did not yet trust the moment. I took one step closer. Then another. And stopped only when I could hear her breathing. I cannot fix the past, I said quietly. But I can stop repeating it. Her eyes lowered for a moment. As if she was fighting emotions too big for her age. Then she whispered. Will you stay this time? That question cut deeper than any business loss ever could. I looked at the woman first. The one who carried my forgotten life without complaint. Then back at my daughter. The life I never knew I had abandoned. And I nodded. Slowly. Completely. Yes. The word felt heavier than any contract I had ever signed. The woman exhaled softly. As if releasing years of waiting. But before relief could settle. A black car pulled up near the bus stop. Headlights cutting through the rain. Engine idling like a warning. The door opened. And a familiar voice called my name from inside. A voice connected to everything I built. And everything I was about to lose. I turned slowly. And what I saw inside the car made my entire past rise again. Not as memory. But as consequence. The rain slowed for a moment. But my heartbeat did not. Inside the black car. I saw my chief executive officer. The same man who stood beside me for years. And also the man who warned me. That stepping away from the company would trigger a takeover. His expression was not calm. It was controlled panic. Sir, he said through the open door. The board has removed you as chairman. The words did not surprise me. But they still cut deep. My empire was already moving without me. Like a machine I once built but no longer controlled. Behind me. My daughter tightened her grip on the woman's hand. As if sensing the world shifting again. The CEO continued. There are legal actions pending. You are being asked to return immediately. I looked at him. Then at my daughter. For years I chased this voice. This respect. This power. Now it sounded empty. I took a slow breath. And stepped away from the car. I am not coming back tonight, I said. The CEO froze. As if he had never heard refusal from me before. My daughter stepped forward slightly. Her voice small but clear. Are they taking you away again, she asked. That question shattered the last wall inside me. I turned fully toward her. And shook my head. No, I said softly. Not this time. The woman watched me carefully. Her eyes filled with quiet understanding. She had seen this moment before. Years ago. When I chose ambition over presence. But now. Something had changed. The CEO closed the car door slowly. As if realizing I was no longer his version of me. The vehicle did not leave immediately. It waited. Like the past refusing to accept the present. I knelt down in front of my daughter again. I lost you once, I said. My life will not lose you again. She did not smile. But her eyes softened. And then she did something I was not ready for. She leaned forward. And placed her forehead gently against mine. For the first time. I felt like a father. But in that exact moment. My phone lit up again in my pocket. With a single message from the board that read. Final decision has been made without you. And the car door behind me opened once more. This time not to call me back. But to bring what came next directly to me. I stood up slowly as the next present stepped out of the car. This time it was not my CEO. It was a man I had not seen in years. The chairman of the board. The man who once told me that emotion is weakness in business. His eyes moved from me. To the woman. To the child. And something in his expression shifted. Not sympathy. Not anger. Calculation. I see you have found your past, he said coldly. My daughter moved slightly behind the woman. Protecting herself without even knowing it. I felt a pressure rise in my chest. But my voice remained calm. Yes, I replied. And I am not leaving it again. A short silence followed. The rain returned harder. As if the sky itself was unsure whose side to take. The chairman stepped closer. You understand what you are risking, he said. Everything you built is now in question. I looked at him directly. For the first time. Without fear. I built everything while losing myself, I said. If I must choose, I will lose the empire again. The woman looked at me. As if she was finally seeing the man she once believed I could become. My daughter pulled gently at my sleeve. Will we be okay? She asked quietly. That question was heavier than all business wars combined. I knelt again. Holding her small hands in mine. I do not know what will happen tomorrow, I said. But I know I will not disappear again. The chairman exhaled sharply. You are making a mistake, he warned. But before I could answer. The woman stepped forward for the first time. Her voice was calm. But carried years of silence. No, she said. He is finally correcting one. A strange stillness fell over everyone. Even the rain seemed to hesitate. Then my phone vibrated again. One final message appeared on the screen from an unknown number. And in that moment, I understood this was no longer only about my company. Or my family. But about a truth that had been waiting to surface all along. And what I read next froze every breath I had left. My fingers tightened around the phone. As if it could stop the truth from escaping. The message was short. But it shattered everything I thought I knew. Ask her what really happened the night you disappeared. I looked up instantly. The woman's face changed. Not fear. Not anger. But a silence that carried years of buried weight. My daughter sensed it too. She stepped back slightly. I could feel my entire world narrowing into that single moment. What does this mean? I asked slowly. My voice no longer belonged to a billionaire. It belonged to a man standing at the edge of truth. The chairman watched closely. Even he had gone quiet now. The woman finally spoke. But her words came like broken glass. You did not leave on your own. A cold wave moved through my chest. My mind searched every memory. Every failure. Every decision. She continued. The night you vanished from our lives, you were taken. I shook my head. Refusing to accept it. No. I left for work. I was building my future. Her eyes filled with tears she had held for years. You never reached that future, she said softly. Because someone made sure you never came back. My breath stopped. The rain felt louder now. Like the world was trying to warn me. My daughter grabbed my hand tighter. "Who took you?" she whispered. I could not answer. Because suddenly, fragments began returning. A van. A phone call. A deal I never completed. A night I told myself I forgot. And then the final missing piece clicked into place. I looked at the chairman. And for the first time, I saw not a leader, but a man who knew more than he ever admitted. His expression confirmed it before words did. The woman stepped closer. Her voice trembling now. "They built your empire on your absence." The ground beneath me felt unreal. Everything I owned. Everything I became. Everything I suffered for. Was connected to a truth I never agreed to. My daughter stepped between us. As if trying to hold the world together. And in that fragile silence, the chairman finally spoke again. But what he said next turned my entire reality into something I could never undo. The chairman exhaled slowly. As if he had been carrying this moment for years. "You were not supposed to survive that night," he said. My stomach dropped. The woman stepped back in shock. My daughter held onto my hand tighter than before. The chairman continued. Calm. Controlled. Almost mechanical. "The acquisition was already planned. You were the only obstacle." My mind refused to accept the words. I remembered flashes. A sudden business trip. A contract meeting that felt too convenient. A team that insisted I leave alone. It was not opportunity. It was arrangement. My voice broke through the silence. "You were part of this." He did not deny it immediately. That silence was the answer. The rain hit harder again. But I no longer felt it. Everything inside me had already frozen. The woman stepped forward trembling. "We searched for you for months," she said. "But your name was erased from every system." My daughter looked up at me. "Papa, were you lost on purpose?" That question hit deeper than anything I had ever faced. I knelt down slowly, holding her face gently. "I do not know everything yet," I said. "But I will find the truth for both of us." The chairman finally spoke again. "You should be grateful. You became something greater than you were supposed to be." I laughed once. But it carried no humor. "You call this greater," I said. "Living a life built on missing years." The woman suddenly stepped forward again. Her voice sharper now. "You did not just take his years. You took a father from his child." The chairman looked away for the first time. A crack in his confidence. And in that exact moment, another car arrived behind his. This time it was not company security. It was something else entirely. Men stepped out. Not in suits. But in silence. One of them held a sealed envelope. And my name was written on it. The chairman's expression changed instantly. For the first time. He looked afraid. My daughter held my hand tighter. And I realized whatever truth I was about to open next was not only about my past. It was about who was still controlling my future. From the shadows I never saw coming. The envelope in my hands felt heavier than anything I had ever signed. The rain had finally stopped. But the silence around me had become louder than the storm. My daughter stood close to me. Still holding my fingers as if she was afraid the world might take me again. I slowly opened the sealed envelope. Inside was a confession document. Signed by names I once trusted with my entire empire. Proof of manipulation. Illegal takeover planning. And my disappearance being used as a strategic move. My breath slowed. Not because I was shocked. But because everything finally made sense. The woman stepped closer. Her voice soft now. You were never meant to be lost, she said. You were meant to be replaced. The chairman stood frozen. His power now reduced to silence. For the first time. He was not a leader. Only a man facing truth. I looked at my daughter. And then at the woman who never stopped believing in life even when life failed her. I understood something deeply. Success built on injustice is only delayed collapse. I turned toward the chairman. I do not want revenge, I said calmly. I want correction. Not destruction. Not hatred. Only truth restored. Days later. The empire I once called mine was rebuilt again. But this time on transparency. And humanity. I did not return as the same man. I returned as a father first. My daughter never asked about money again. She only asked if I would be home at dinner. And I always said yes. The woman who once had nothing became the foundation of our new beginning. Not as someone I saved. But as someone who saved me. Because I finally understood. A real empire is not built in boardrooms. It is built in the hearts we refuse to abandon. And sometimes, life does not give you success first. It gives you truth. So you can rebuild correctly. If this story moved you in any way, then do not forget to subscribe. Share it with someone who needs hope. And comment your thoughts below.